and welcome to the Love and Compassion podcast with Giselle. We believe that love and compassion have the power to heal our lives and our world. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content. And if you'd like to support the podcast, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/love and compassion. Today, we're talking about forgiveness and the ancestors. And our guest today is Angel Morgan, who is a globally known media psychic, animal communicator who works with ceremony. She has been on her path and walked the realms for almost 30 years and considers herself the voice of the ancestors. Although Angel has her own private practice where she works with individuals and families, she loves being on stage and on the air where she knows she can reach so many to bring through messages of love and hope from their ancestors from across cultures worldwide. Please join me in welcoming Angel. Hi.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to be chatting with you as well. Oh, I'm so excited. It's 2026.
Mhm.
There's some exciting things happening. I
There
was
are.
wondering if you could start by telling the audience a little bit about how you got into this work.
Sure, it was completely accidental. Of course, there's no such thing, but I was a non-believer, and I was the kind of person that really felt there had to be a limit to everything. And I happened on this wonderful little store in Newmarket, Ontario, where I decided I was going to get my very first reading. And at that point, I was actually in theater and I was in the last cuts of Shaw Festival, Stratford. This was my thing. And she said, but you're going to be doing this with your life. And I thought, oh, there was a waste of money. And within 6 weeks of that, I had started having experiences, and that led me right back to that store where I ended up getting a job and being there for 9.5 years. And in that time, too, I actually ended up in Guatemala. And in Guatemala, they told me that I was going to be speaking with animals. And again, it was like, oh, you people are on crack. This is not happening. And I came back to Canada, where I'm from, and I ended up at this healing center where everybody was signing these binders. And I thought, you know what, I'll sign a binder. And I didn't know what I was signing. And the week later, I got an email. And the email said, don't forget, you have an animal communications course coming up. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And my friend said, are you going? And I said, absolutely not. And she goes, yes, you are. And she dragged me. So I actually went to disprove it, to debunk it. And by the end of the session, I was more than convinced. And within, again, 6 to 8 weeks of that, I was working professionally as an animal communicator at that little store. And it was just a phenomenal experience. And it has been for the last 30 years. And I've been working with humans as well as animals. And it's been an exciting adventure, especially in closure and helping people, because my work very specifically, not that I'm solely a medium, I'm a realm walker, so I can do many things in the psychic realms. But I love working with animals and humans to find closure with those who've crossed over, because we don't sometimes get that opportunity, right? Sometimes somebody will cross over and we haven't had that opportunity to say the things we need to say, or something made tragic or traumatic will have happened. And now we have to carry, or we think, we feel we have to carry those things when that's just not the case. And I get that blessed honored opportunity to be that gateway or that bridge between the worlds. So that's a little bit about me and what I do.
I was wondering, so what helped you actually understand that death isn't final? Did you have an experience? Just because I think, from my perspective, I've had spiritual experiences that have demonstrated to me that death isn't final. Even though there's always like that element of me, there's always the doubt, like your mind likes to go there. But to me, death is like the final frontier that humanity has to face, because I think we do so many things out of a fear of death. I was wondering what helped you overcome that fear.
It's interesting because I've never feared death, but I've always wondered what it'd be like if I faced death. That was always a question in my head. I've had experience with death herself, and I remember the first time I was lying in bed and I was falling asleep. It was just a nap that I was taking. And I saw this girl on a cobblestone fence, and she had these beautiful pumpkin colored pants with a skull face. And she said, you know me. And I said, I do. And she says, yes, you do. And right away, I recognized. And she said, there are three people in the coming year who will pass. And she told me who they were consecutively. And they did, and they passed. But what I noted in that experience which was brief. But what I did note was that it was warm and it was welcoming. And it was almost like cicadas on a warm day. And I think that actually echoed something that I didn't understand at the time when I was little. The very first experience I ever had, I saw my great auntie in a vision. I was in that in between place, and she was standing by this tree, which I now know to be the tree of life. And she was in a death gown, and it was like black with very high Victorian neck. And I knew she had passed. And I woke up and my mother was coming up the stairs. This woman had raised her. And she said, your Auntie Mary has passed. And I said, yeah, I know. And she goes, how do you know? And I said, I just saw her. Right. And she goes, no, you didn't see anything. You don't know anything. And she turned around and she walked away, which left my little brain very confused. But it was, again, I think that was my first encounter with death. And then the second was the cobblestone fence. And then my final one, which really helped me understand death fully, was my encounter with death myself. I was in a very bad place in my life, and I decided that I was going to play a very dangerous game. And that game was, if we can manifest, can we manifest conscious death? And so for a year, I put energy into that, right? And I do believe that if we put enough energy into something, we will call that energy to us. And so I ended up in emergency. And in the emergency, they told me that I had a 50-50 chance of living. And I remember hearing that same voice of that girl going, do you want to live or do you want to die? And I thought of my son and I thought, no, I want to live, game over. And so that was a really massive experience for me, that some of us actually have that ability to take things that far. We all do, but it's to what extent. So when I met death on that front, that answered that question of how would I face death? Because again, it's not just about how death feels, right? It's not facing like looking at that and going, oh my God, death is scary, death is scary. It's not about death, it's about you too. Because I understood in that moment that I faced death with grace and quiet and confidence, and I was okay. And I knew I was going to be okay. And that's the biggest thing I think we need to understand about death, is that it is part of a cycle and that we are always going to be okay. Death is an angel, right? Death is an angel just like Michael, just like Gabrielle, just like Uriel. And so when death comes, there is a sweetness as well as a sadness. There's this great Facebook post that I absolutely love. And you see this grandmother in bed and her spirit is up in her body. And you see the family, and the family is crying and it's sad in that in this picture. But then on the other side, above them, is the family waiting, and they're joyful and they're happy. So it's a bittersweet thing. And it's not a job I would want. Death has a very big responsibility, and I honor that every day. Even if you look at some of the items I have behind me, oh, she's actually not. Yeah, there she is. I have a Santa Muerte. And Santa Muerte, she is the goddess of death and abundance. Right back here, I also have Kali. She's the destroyer and she's also the rebirth, because there is a cycle to everything and all of it is beautiful. And once we accept it, once we embrace that, and that's what the believers of Santa Muerte live. Once we accept that death is part of the cycle, it's that freedom to live.
Yeah. 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 And I think you hit the nail on the head, which is then you become free to live instead of
Mhm.
trying to avoid death, instead of trying to wait out or control.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could share, was it ever difficult for you to see the death of other people crossing over, especially of people that were close to you? I
No,
think,
in fact, my father passed away in 2025. And before he died, 6 months before he died, I was shown that he was going to pass. And I wasn't sad. The first, I remember what went through my head is, okay, what can I do in this 6 months to make that a full experience? And so as time went on, I gave myself the opportunities to find the closure that I needed with him. It was really cool. The last time I saw him was actually in a restaurant. I had stolen him. He went to the hospital and he hated hospitals. And in between one test and another, there was 2 hours. And he didn't realize that. And he was so upset. And I said, let's go on an adventure. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. What do you want to do? He said, I haven't had fish and chips in a long time. I said, okay. So I stole him and we went to this restaurant and we sat down and we talked about all the people he knew in his past. And it was almost like absolution. And that's something that I've noticed I've really encountered with my work because I'm a transition worker. Usually a few days or a few weeks before somebody passes, they seem to want to absolve themselves of a lot of things and they want to confide and just get everything off their chest. And I seem to just be in the right place at the right time. And so we talked and we talked, and I heard stories I'd never heard before. So when my son came to tell me that my dad had passed, he took my hands and he goes, listen, he goes, none knew passed. And I said, I know. And he goes, you're taking this a lot better than I thought you would. And I looked at him and I said, well, that's because I've already had my closure. I knew. So when it comes to death and seeing loved ones who've passed or anybody who passes, I understand that there is a joy in it. They have something to look forward to. And I've had clients who have begged me, you can talk to death, you can talk to the other side, tell them not to come for me. I've actually had people say that to me. Go and tell my dad not to come for me. Go and tell, still have so much to live for. And I'm like, I know. I said, but this is part of your contract. And if it's so, understand. And I've said this to people, understand it's a really beautiful place. And that's not a cliche, right? So I've been on both ends of it where I've seen somebody pass and I've had people who have not wanted to go, who don't understand what death really is. However, that one person I was just talking about, the one who was begging to not die, after she passed, she came to me in a dream and she goes, you were right. She goes, I'm sitting here, and right behind her could see her dad, and her dad was playing cards. And she goes, I'm having a great time. She goes, this is a lot. Charlie Chaplin said it. He goes, death is easy, comedy is hard. Life is challenging for us, right? Because we have all of this baggage, all of these conditioned beliefs, whereas death is sweet and easy and transformational. We see those people who fight death even in their last moments. And what we're coming to understand is when we accept it, when we embrace it, then we're able to move over. And that's the other blessing I have. And this is honestly, this is my favorite part of my work and death work and grief work. My favorite part is when somebody's crossing over, including animals, by the way, you will see their ancestors coming closer and closer. So when you hear about people saying, I'm talking to my dad, or I see my mom, or I see, that's when you know that time is close, because that's literally what the ancestors, they wait and they get closer and closer. And so when I have people call me, especially with their animals, because we do a lot of decision making, I do a lot of decision making with families. That's the first thing I'll look at is how close are the ancestors? How close are the bridge workers are going to take the animals over the Rainbow Bridge? And that's really helpful too. So that's the other thing is I don't work in isolation. I work with my spirit team. I work with those ancestors on the other side. And you'll be surprised who show up. Sometimes it's actually those people who cause tragedy or trauma, those people who are considered the bad people in the family. They're the ones who will come because they're the ones who have seen the light. They're the ones who have been healed. And it's an incredible experience. And no two experiences are ever alike. They're just all really amazing. And I have to tell you, it is very cinematic sometimes. So it can be really cool. It can be really cool.
Wow, it's really interesting. As you were speaking, I was thinking about my mother-in-law, and I've been thinking about the people that I know. As you get closer to coming to the transition, you spend more time between worlds, right? It's
Yes,
like babies. You know how they sleep and are in between worlds in the
that's
beginning?
right.
You see that at the end with them
Yes.
spending spending more time sleeping, spending more time like seeing things that aren't there. Like it's an interesting, it's so
It
beautiful and
is.
perfect.
So you're absolutely correct. With a child, with a baby, up to 6 months to 8 months, they do have one foot here and one foot there. When we get older and seniors, it's about 82, 83 years old. And for some, it's older.
Yeah.
That's not hard and stone. But between 82 and 83 years old, this is when we start to reconnect to the other side. This is when we start to really become that. And I noticed that with my parents as well, as around that age, without even speaking to them, they were already here, take this, or here, take that, or they're already getting ready for it on a physical plane. My parents were, but The reality is you are absolutely correct in that. Yeah.
I also noticed it in my dog too. I had a dog that passed away November,
Oh, just
and
past November?
not this November, but the previous one.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I just love that dog. He was my third child. He was
It's
just
so
like,
fun. I'm actually in the process of adopting a pet right now, and I always said I would never have a ball python because they get really big. And I just walked in the store a few days ago, and I saw this little guy, and I literally physically heard mommy, and I went, "Oh, I'm done. I understand that."
yeah. And I learned so much from that experience, which I never thought I would. But I could tell at the end when he was ready to transition out because he used to get seizures and he didn't want to
Mhm.
take his pills anymore.
Yeah.
And then when
That,
he didn't want to take his pills anymore, I knew I didn't want to face it. My daughter knew she's very psychic as well. And she decided to take a picture a few days before he died.
yeah.
You get so attached. Death is hard for the people that remain.
Yes,
Hard for
I
the people that miss. I miss him. I miss
it's
having his energy. I
physical.
miss,
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's our brains. It's our brains that miss that person because our brains need the physical, tangible. Our brains are wired that way. Our spirits, our hearts know that they're always around us, but our brain needs that. I need to see you every day. I need to touch you every day. I need to feel that presence every day, which is one of the reasons I always recommend taking something, especially with humans, taking a piece of their clothing and making like a pillow out of it or making so when you really do want to be with them to be able to hold them you have that physical tangible. I love that. That's one of my favorite things to offer people, and of course there are things that you can do for your animals as well. So the grief process is an amazing thing. And I think they say that it takes about 3 years to really grieve. And I think that's the conditioned time that the brain needs to rewire. And I think that's really what it's like. In South America, and I work with medicine people from South America, and the South Americans believe life is as easy or complex as we make it. If we allow ourselves to embrace death, then that process of grief can actually shorten, right? It's like with animals. Animals grieve. We see elephants grieve the loss of a group member. But when they grieve and the process is done, they move on. And that doesn't mean that they don't feel the loss later. They do, but it's such a different extent than we are. They're so present in their existence. And I think that's another thing we need to understand about death and grief is that it's a very present moment thing. And as humans in our lives, we're always thinking about the future or dwelling on the past, whereas death is a very present experience. So when we're crossing over, we're not thinking about the past anymore. We're not thinking about the future anymore. We're in that moment. And that's, I think, what creates the peace around it in those last seconds.
yeah. We're often not present, but you're right. That stuff that forces you to be more present and also to value life more. I think if we've lived indefinitely, I think
Yeah,
that it will be really difficult.
that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Immortality is a whole other discussion. In that, though, there's also a solace in knowing that we truly are immortal beings because our spirit is just transitioning and shifting and reshaping. We're not actually losing anything. We're not like, and again, it's a belief system because there are those who believe that when we pass, that's it, there's nothing, there's a blackness. For me, my belief system is that and again, there are 4 stages, not 3 stages of life. For me, when we cross over, we go into that wholeness. And then when we're complete in that wholeness, we come back or we go to wherever our soul chooses. But for me, there are 4 levels of death. We usually believe there's life, there's death, and then there's rebirth if you believe in reincarnation. But we're missing a step, and it's a really important step. And that's life, death, decay, and then rebirth. Because that decay part is that part that allows us to resolve and release all the stuff from that last life so that we're clean slate. Our bones are clean again. So that when we do rebirth, that's one of the reasons I truly believe that we don't remember our past lives, that we don't remember these things to their fullest, because we do to some degree, right? It may not be conscious, we do. And it is in us, it's in our DNA. It does affect our present lives, but we don't consciously remember it fully. And one of the reasons for that, I truly believe, is because that process of decay between death and life is there to clean that away so that we can start fresh. And I've had that question many times. Why don't we remember our past lives? For me, that's why, because that step is incredibly important.
It's interesting. I had that thought. You're answering my question that I had in a thought because we were talking. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the fact that whenever I try to do past life regression, I've had a few, which I have seen really interesting. Not anything that would have come from my mind, because if I was to create that story, I wouldn't have created those stories.
Right,
And so to me,
exactly.
I'm like, that doesn't make
That's how
sense.
you know it's
It
real.
must have been something, because there's no way I would have picked any of those stories. That's not even what I had come for.
I
So,
literally just posted on my Instagram this moment I had with a client, and it was so cool because both of us looked at each other. I couldn't make this up if I tried. And her father, who'd crossed over, came and he was talking about how she needed to be more empowered and freedom. And he showed me her as a skier coming down a ski hill. And for me, that is a symbol of power, strength, and with the elements and all that kind of stuff. And this is the very specific thing that he showed. And all of a sudden she laughs, and she had the sweetest, most beautiful laugh, very elegant woman. And she looks at me, she goes, "It's so funny." She goes, I don't remember where she was from, but she moved from there, at South Africa, and she moved to Luxembourg to become a ski instructor. And I thought, wow. And I said it. Well, I said it, and she says, I couldn't make this up if I tried. Like I couldn't. What are the odds that her father, who she wanted to connect to, would say something so specific that would tie into something she needed to know?
yeah.
The dead have all the answers. They have all the answers. We do too, because our spirits have all those answers, but the conscious mind is the thing that kind of creates that wall for us, that veil.
So how can we actually decrease that disconnection? Because I think sometimes I find that when I have questions and I look for answers, it's like crickets
Oh, okay,
sometimes.
got it.
Because obviously it's us preventing ourselves from hearing and listening and being
Yeah.
able to get those answers. So, what are things that we can do to actually be more open to the answers instead of just keep asking the same thing over?
And you know what? That's a great question. And a lot of people ask me all the time because one of my specialties is to teach psychic development. And the thing is, they go, "How do I develop your psychic abilities?" You don't. You don't develop your psychic abilities. They're there and they're full, they're whole, they're enriched. The only thing we're trying to develop is our confidence in our psychic abilities. And what's really interesting is every day we're having them. So if you really want to connect to your guides, to your guardians, if you really want those answers and not hear crickets, which you're not, by the way, even nothing is an answer sometimes.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, sometimes it is. The reality is that the three main things is listen, right, to those nigglings, to those things. Dismiss nothing, right? Don't dismiss the things you feel. What you feel becomes real. What you feel is real. Thoughts may be things, but what you feel is real. Listen, dismiss nothing. And the most important one, this is the one that creates the barrier or the wall, is act on it. Act on it. As long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else. If one day you're driving to work and you feel like, you know what, today I need to take the long route, but no, I'm so afraid I'm gonna be late. Take the long route. I'll bet you nine times out of 10, you're still gonna be on time. And I've done it. I've done it. Trust what you get and act on it. Have fun, play, create a game for yourself where if you feel it, be it. Follow that feel. And this is one of the things I teach is follow your feel. If you do this, you're going to start getting confidence. You're going to go, "Oh, wow, I can't believe that happened." And as you gain that confidence, then you're going to go, okay, you know what? I have this question. And when you ask that question, all of a sudden, it may not be in the moment, but you will start to see things. And you can ask things like that. You can say, "Listen, you know what? I've just had this experience. Show me that it was real. Validate that." All right. Or you can ask a question like me. For instance, here's a really great exercise for everyone to do. In the morning, before you open your eyes, your subconscious is wide open. So you're in that in between place. Okay. So your subconscious is wide open. Before you open your eyes, ask your question and then do nothing. And more importantly, expect nothing, because that's the thing that's going to put a full stop on everything. If you expect to see something, you expect to hear something, now that expectation has said to the angels and guides and guardians, "This is what the way I want it." And they're going to go, "Okay, but that's not the way we need to give it to you right now." So what we do is we have our eyes closed before we wake up and we go, "Okay, you know what? Show me my day today." And then all of a sudden, we might get a split second of an image, right? We might get a thought, we might get a feeling. And that's the answer. And that's the other thing too, is we're always getting the answers. Remember how I say you hear crickets? How do you know those crickets weren't your answer? You're expecting to
I
get
mean,
it.
I actually don't hear crickets. I just hear nothing. But you said that sometimes nothing is an answer. How?
Yeah, so
What do you
from
mean?
nothing comes everything. So my thing is this, if I'm lying down, my eyes are closed, I've asked my questions and I'm getting nothing, sometimes that answer is be open. Just be open to it.
I
Or,
like
you
that.
know what, at this moment, you're not ready to hear the answer. You're not ready for that. So I trust that if I'm not getting something, that's either me being protected, me not being ready, or hey, you know what? Today is a follow your field day. We got something for you. A lot of times, if I get nothing, oh my God, by the end of the day, it's miraculous. It's surprises galore. So I actually look forward to the nothing answers. I call them the nothing answers, right?
Mm.
I like those moments. But that's the problem is because we're getting nothing, we're completely believe we're doing something wrong, right? Or we're not being answered. Your guides and guardians are always with you, and creating relationships with them is also really important. One of the things that I like to do, and I used to do this a lot when I started, was before I'd open my eyes in the morning, I would ask one of my guides, I would literally say, I ask and give permission to all those of the light. I would like one of my guides to step forward. And then it could might be a feeling, and I might see them or I might hear a voice. And I go, okay, who are you? The five questions: who, what, when, where, why. Who are you? What are you here for? How can we work together? Where do we go from here? And why is it that we're going to work together? So those are very important. But the reality is, I would work with them for a week or 2 weeks to really get to know those guides and guardians, to see how they'll work with me, to feel their energy. So in my waking day, when I feel that, I know it's them. Right. So they're also really important to answering your questions because once you create a relationship, like I talk to my guides the way I talk to you, I'm like, okay, guys, I need to know what the hell is going on here, especially on a paranormal investigation. If I'm on an investigation, I'll be in a haunted house and I'll be like, okay, guys, I need you guys to make sure you have my back, or what's going on in this room. Because if I feel something in a room and I can't see it or feel it, now I feel blind. And that scares me. Okay. So then I depend on my team, and my team are the spirit guides. And I'll be like, okay, what's going on here? And then they'll show me. I'll see a little boy, or they'll show me a story or whatever. But that's because I've created a relationship with them. They know how to speak to me. I know how to listen, and I know how to speak to them. And I've been doing this for almost 30 years. So a lot of it too, practice. You don't go to the gym and build a muscle in a day.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think part of the reason why I was judging the communication that I received or didn't receive is because there were other times in my life when I had very clear guidance and I heard it.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't go there. This is not going to happen. And so that's a communication I've always expected.
Okay.
Because sometimes those came when I didn't expect it. I was like
Right.
doing
So for
something and they're like,
you,
don't do that or go over here or get out of here. And not I was necessarily in danger. They were just telling me like, hey, this is what's happening. There were other times when I was like very clearly desperate for the answer and it's nothing. And I'm like,
so I
what?
love that question. I love that you said that because I have a lot of
Hello?
people say that too.
Yep.
Because a lot of times what will happen is because we're not practiced, just because we're not practiced, that's it. What will happen is I always say if God wants to talk to you, he's going to find a way. So my reality is
Mm,
something important, they're going to find a way. Even if you are the most hard-headed person who truly is a non-believer
yeah.
and it's like a black and white person, if God needs to speak to you, they will. So I love the story that I heard a very long time ago. There was a man, and he was a very simple man. He was an accountant. That's all he was. And I can't remember. He saw a child who got hit by a car, and he got out of his car. He stopped the car, got out of the car. He went over and he just knew what to do. Like he knew what to do to help this child. And I think the child wasn't breathing. I think it was something with the throat. I can't remember what it was. And he took a jackknife and he did whatever he had to. And afterwards, they asked him, they said, are you a doctor? Are you this? Are you that? He goes, no. And they go, how did you know to do that? And he goes, I didn't. And so when spirit needs to get through to you, they will. And I've had those instances. I was on a subway once. This was when I was really young, way before any of this. And this man was having a seizure and he fell on the floor and his eyes started to bulge and everything. And I literally heard, go and put your fingers behind his head. I heard fingers behind head and nobody moved, but I did. And that was, like, I look back now, that's a really dangerous situation because I didn't know what I was doing. And I went over and I put my finger and I just lifted his head a bit, which cleared his earway. And he started to breathe again. And as soon as the subway stopped, someone had the sense to pull it. And as soon as the subway stopped, I left. I didn't even want to deal with that. And I've had that instance actually a couple of times, but That was the most profound one. So when spirit needs to speak to you, they're going to find a way. So you may be desperate. Tell me I'm here.
Yeah, yeah.
And we do that especially with our children, right? I know for myself, I am a helicopter mom and I can admit that now. And my son is 22 years old, but there are times I'm like, okay, where is he? What's he doing? Guys, tell me, show me. And I'll get nothing. And I'll be like, fine, not my business, whatever. But then I'll have times when I can see
Yeah.
clearly. And I kid you not, this has happened. I can see clearly. And 15 minutes later, I'll get a call and go, don't do that again. Do not do that again. And I'm like, sorry. And that's another thing we need to understand too is we're all connected. So you asked that question earlier about what it feels like to see people before they pass and know that they're going to pass. We all can. We all can because we're all connected, but it's about vibrational matches. If I'm on your vibration, there's a more likely chance that I'll see when you're not feeling well or if you're going to pass or that kind of thing, and another psychic won't. Just because I can doesn't make them lesser. It means I'm more on your vibe. That's all. That's it. I'm an animal communicator. So if an animal is going to cross, guess what? I'm probably the one who's going to know.
I'm just curious because this popped into my head to ask. So during a meditation once, I saw something called a long. Do you know what that is? It's a dragon with wings.
Ooh, okay.
Have
And
you
then
ever heard of that?
talking about dragons. No, I haven't heard them that way, but I do work with dragon medicine. So I do understand the dragon tribes in the dragon world. So yeah, please tell me about this.
It was just that. So I was meditating and it just came forward and that was it. I don't remember anything else
And you
other
heard
than
this
that.
word?
And sorry?
You heard this word, logma?
No, I looked it up.
What is
I didn't
it?
know what it was. I just saw, so I was meditating and then I saw a dragon with wings come forward. And that's all. I just saw it in my meditation. And then I was like, oh, cool. Don't know what that means. And so later on, I was Googling and then I was like, oh, it's something called, I think, a longma. So it's a horse. Oh, no, sorry, I'm mistaken. It was a horse dragon,
Horse dragon.
something like that. And I think it's like Asian. So I bought some and I was like, oh, okay, maybe. So I was just curious if you had ever had that with the
Well,
dragon.
different cultures have different names for different creatures. So if I saw it, I might call it something else. But
Yeah,
I've
so
never.
I'm pretty sure it was a horse dragon.
But again, see, so the South Americans have taught me the only limitations we have are the ones we place on ourselves. So you may have seen a creature that I don't know about yet, but now I do. And of course, my brain being my brain, I'm going to go look it up later.
Yeah.
But dragon medicine is powerful medicine. So if that tribe of dragons is working with you, that's because you're on that vibration of dragon. I never believed in dragons until mine came to me. And again, I was much, much younger. I was not on this path at all. I was a little girl and I saw this big white and gold dragon, and it took my breath away in a vision. And he even gave me his name. And I'd always been working with him. And then one day, as I was on this path, as is my way, I met this medicine woman and she goes, oh, she goes, I need to talk to you. And I said, what? And she goes, the dragon. And I said, what about him? And she goes, the white and gold one. And I went, excuse me? And then she even said his name. And I'm like, are you joking me right now? She goes, yeah, he needs you to know that he's real and not a figment of your imagination. And I'm like, so even as a practitioner of this work and these arts, because it is an art, there are things I still doubt. There are things where the validation is, wow, that's awesome. John Edwards said something once that was very interesting. He said he had an experience where he was like, oh my God, he called his wife and goes, oh my God, it was so shocking and surprising. And she turns, she goes, why is it shocking and surprising? She goes, you're a psychic. This is what you do for a living.
Yeah.
Me, it was like, no, you know what? I like to be shocked and surprised. I love it when I have those, oh my God, that was so cool moments because it keeps that childlike wonder alive. And what better to keep that alive than dragons?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's so interesting. There's this video circulating now about there being an actual, like in the physical world, dragon
Yes.
that's white. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, in right now we're in the time, from what I've understood, we're in the time of the dragon. This is when the dragons are reappearing to us, whether it's physical or not, they're reappearing in droves. In fact, it's interesting because I have a lot of clients now going, I just dreamt of a dragon, or I had a dragon come to me. And I'm like, and these are not people on the path. These are just people, in everyday life. And it's incredible how I'm hearing more and more of that. So I am inclined to believe that power is now something that we're more willing to embrace. And we're ready for so much. We're ready for so much now. 2026, year of the horse dragon, year of the horse
Yeah.
is going to be phenomenal. And it is a fire horse that's coming in. And this particular energy is really going to propel us forward. Anything that we've seeded now is going to be expanded in massive ways. I've been dying for this year to kick in.
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited. Yeah, because it made me think of the longbow. It made me think of the fire horse, like the
Yeah.
dragon horse that I had seen way back. Yeah, and I was trying to find something about it. It's supposed to be auspicious and, like you said, moving forward. And so that's why I was like, oh, interesting.
What you can do is you can, again, before you open your eyes in the morning, okay, call for that dragon to come to you. Have the conversation with the dragon, right? Get the answers from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And again, I ask and get permission is really important. Guides, guardians, angels, archangels can only intercede in your life so far. If you give them permission, you're opening the floodgates. So if you really want a beautifully clear channel, there are a few things that you can do. Again, that exercise of before you open your eyes in the morning, that's a great time to work. For night owls, as you're falling asleep, going into that beta state. And again, I ask and give permission to all those of the light, and then ask your question. Right now, if you're a very physically inclined person, now let's say we wanted to talk about forgiveness. Okay. Let's say you want to talk to an ancestor that you've not had closure with, or someone who maybe you've had a tragedy or a trauma with. When you are ready and inclined to do, take a little white candle. This is one of my favorite things to do. Write or etch into it with your finger or with just a pen or something, just etch into it ancestors. Okay. You can be specific too. If there's someone specific you want to talk to, like a grandmother, grandpa, whatever. But I like to just put ancestors because I use it for so many different things. And then what you do is you envision your angels, guides, guardians, whatever, call in your posse. I ask all of those of the light, I ask and give permission, right, to work with the ancestors today. And then light the candle. Close your eyes, sit, okay, and make the space a beautiful space to work in. Because if you're going to have your grandma over, you're going to be like cleaning that house. Your grandma's coming over, your mom's coming over, you're going to make it nice. So that's what we want to do. We want to make this space auspicious. We want to make the space welcoming. So you light your candle and then you close your eyes and you have that imaginary conversation, knowing it's not imaginary. Right? You allow them to come to you in any way they want to and give them space to speak. Ask your questions, have your time with them, and feel the emotions. Listen, dismiss nothing, and act on it. And the action here is the conversation, right? And in that, the healing is so profound. I knew a girl once, a long time ago, she was in a rape situation. And when she was older, she wanted to find this person and actually have a conversation with them because it led her to become a counselor. It actually led her to a very positive thing in her life. So she wanted to find this person. This is someone who was known to her. She found out that he had passed away 2 years before, and it was devastating to her because now she felt she couldn't have this conversation. And I said, yeah, you can. And so we did this together and we did the ancestor candle. In this particular case, because it was something was very touchy, it was very emotional. Like I said, you have to be ready for it. We lit this candle and we sat with the candle and with her. And was really interesting because when he came, there was this gasp, right? It was like she was really not expecting it. And she had the conversation with him and there were tears. But what's interesting is there was laughter and there was understanding and there was remorse on his side. He understood things. They understood there was a past life they had together. There was all this different things. There was a vengeance contract. There was this, there was that. And by the time it had ended, you could see her face had changed, her demeanor had changed. I'd never seen a change like that. And so we tapped out the candle. So when you're done this, when you're finished, you always say, I release you. Thank you. And I release you. It's like hanging up the phone. You tap out the candle. Don't blow out the candle. You tap out the candle. Take a breath and release. Once you've done that, you know the conversation, and most times the contract is complete. I noticed something profound with her too. Because she had that closure, within days of that, she had gotten a promotion. Her life started to open up. Everything became lighter in her life. Why? Because that weight was off her shoulders, because she had cleared something. When you clear something, you open other doors for yourself. This is why healing is really important, especially with ancestors. Okay. What I thought was really cool about that conversation too was that it was very flowing. It wasn't forced in any way. We had made the commitment before we even started that if he shows up, that's great. And if he doesn't, that's fine too. And we need to understand that most times, and that's one of the reasons she chose to, because she was a little hesitant. When people cross, they do go through a healing. Okay. They go through an understanding that they didn't have on this side. And so, a lot of times when you get trauma, when you get tragedy, and you face those people in spirit, whether they're living or dead, because you can do that same thing with people who are alive. You don't have to face them physically. You can do that through a candle. Oh, yeah, definitely. There's a great book called Eat, Pray, Love. And she goes in the book to the ashram, and she goes to the roof of the ashram, and she calls in her husband, and she has that same conversation with him. And when she goes home, it's a completely different relationship because their souls have connected. And that's the point. We're trying now to get away from the conditioned conscious mind. We're trying to get rid of the baggage and go to the core. There's another one that you can do too, where you can write a letter. And this is a very profound exercise too, because I got this in South America. I was sitting by a fire, and three spirits came to me, three women. And they said, this is what you need to do in three parts. And the first showed me that you have to write the letter. This is a very North American thing, right? Psychologists say, write a letter, right? So you pour everything into it, but it's stream of conscious writing. So it's not like you're going, dear person, it's this is how I feel about you, and I love you and hate you, and blah, da, 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 and alligators, and you just throw it all in there. The second one stepped forward. I kid you not, this actually happened. The second one stepped forward, and she was Hawaiian. And she said to me, write this. And it was the hope. I'd never heard of it. I couldn't quite understand the word. Then I went and researched it later, right? And I found out this was a real thing, right? From the Huna. And in this, what you do is you write everything. And then the Ho'oponopono, 3 times you write it, okay, with this person's name. And then you sign it as your commitment to the release, because this is a release ceremony. And the third part is South American. The third one stepped forward and she said, throw it in the fire. And I said, throw it in the fire? She goes, yeah, he's going to get it. And I said, okay. So I threw it in the fire, because now that tangible object isn't something I'm going to give the person. You're going to throw it in the fire so that they get that letter in spirit. And their spirit reads that and says, okay, now it's time to go. And then you take those ashes. You take them once they've cooled off your property, and you throw them to the wind so that they get the letter. Okay? So that's something I've given people for years and years, and it's worked every time I've used it. And you can use it with anyone. You can even use that with people you have great relationships with, because there's always something to clear. There's always something to release. There's always something to put yourself into balance with. But when it comes to forgiveness, when it comes to rebalancing, especially relationships that need that, people who have had divorce, right? People who are angry with each other, parents and children, whatever the case, this can be used for anything. That idea of forgiveness, the person doesn't have to cross. We are all connected. So if you can't face that person on a physical level, maybe they're not willing. That person's not willing, even if you are. This is a good way to do it. The candle, the ancestor candle, or the letter.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, how do you do the letter thing during the winter, right? There's so much snow outside, I can't make a
Oh,
fire.
so yeah, you can. So what you do is that's a great question, by the way. Before I had my cauldrons, I actually used to line my sink with tinfoil. You line your sink with tinfoil and you just burn the letter, right? Because the letter could be a page or 2 pages or 10 pages, and you just rip them up, open your kitchen window, and you burn it like that, and you let it cool down. And once it's cooled down, you take that outside, you throw it off your driveway or off your balcony or whatever, and then you take the silver and you throw that out.
Okay, okay.
Good question. That's a good one. You
Yeah.
don't want to miss that one. So
Oh,
yeah, so if you can do it in the summer, that's fantastic. If you can't do it in the summer, then you can definitely use your sink and silver and tin foil.
and how do you do the candle?
Just a small candle. So you can use like a taper.
Just
Go
a
to Dollar Shop and
conversation,
just get a
just in
white.
terms of,
Yeah, so the candle, basically you're etching ancestor on it, right? And then what you do is again, you place it in the candle holder. You envision your ancestors around you. You call in your posse just the way you want to. And then
yeah.
you light that candle, close your eyes, call in that person or that those people you want to work with, and then you have the conversation.
Mm.
Once you're done, I ask to release you in love, light, and harmony, and then you tap out the candle. Now, here's a trick. If the candle goes down to the nub, take another white candle and place it on top. Envision the energy of that last candle into your new candle. And now you can use this consistently. I've had been doing this with one candle and candle holder for almost probably about 9, 10 years now. So each time
Perfect.
you do that and invest the old energy into the new candle, you're strengthening that candle and making the channel even clearer. Okay. And
Mm.
with the letter, all you do again is you write and write and write and write. Ho'oponopono at the end 3 times. You sign it, you burn it, whether it's in tinfoil or outside, and then you throw that cool to the wind so that their spirit can get it. So those are two really beautiful things that you can do to find closure, to get the forgiveness. Because we also have to remember, and you know this, forgiveness sometimes is not about the other person. It's for us, right? We don't need to carry that. And you can do it for yourself because sometimes the forgiveness we need to create is with our own selves, right? Sometimes we need to forgive us in a situation, right? As parents, this is a really good one to do because sometimes we hold this guilt of we're not perfect, right? I could have done this, I could have done that, especially if you have a child in crisis. I've worked with parents whose children are in crisis, drug addicts in jail, and they blame themselves. So the letter ceremony is a wonderful ceremony to do with somebody in crisis or to do for yourself, to allow yourself to release that stuff that you can't forgive, that guilt or that shame that you carry, so that you can be more of service, so you can be strong. Because it's like being on an airplane. You can't take care of someone unless you take care of you.
I loved everything you said.
You can do this with animals too. Okay. So let's say you've
Oh,
had
yeah.
an animal attack. An animal has attacked you. You can do that with the animal, an animal who's crossed over, whatever. So anyway, I just wanted to add that as well.
No, this is important that you're mentioning that because there's so many mistakes I made with my dog, and he was so forgiving and gentle and kind. There was times when I think I over worried. I didn't know how to have a dog in the beginning, and
You're
so
a mom.
sometimes,
You're
yeah,
so
like I feel like I could have done better with his seizures, or like I could have fussed over him less because I think sometimes I prevented him from just doing things, right? Because I was worried that something was going to happen, and so
dogs could laugh. That's what I'm hearing right now. Did you used to hold his paw or used to do something where you held him?
he didn't like his paw touch. Okay, so I adopted this dog. He was from the pound, and he had a
Oh,
whole
what
bunch of
did you do
problems.
with his paw? Because you're saying he didn't like it, but it almost felt, did you put cream? Did you do something with his paw? Because it almost feels,
Yeah, I used, yeah.
yeah, that made him feel good. So he's saying thank you for that.
Oh, I
Okay.
think I just loved him so much. Like it's just, it's, ooh, sorry.
But it's interesting because out of all of the things I could have chosen, that was, but notice the closure, notice the release. Isn't that beautiful? Just from that paw. He didn't like his paw being held, but boy, did that ever feel good when you put the cream on his hand. Wow, did that ever feel good? So those things that were hard on ourselves, sometimes those who've crossed over are so appreciative of it. Like we don't even realize that small little touch, that little thing. But do you see how rewarding my world is, how rewarding my work is, and how we're touching other lives with this podcast because of that? He's laughing.
It's so interesting because you wouldn't have known that.
No.
Why I fussed over that dog. So
Yeah, of course. It's so funny. I have two dogs, a cat and a snake, and we're adopting a second. And I love my dogs. I love my cat too. But my snake, that girl, oh my God. Oh, I love her so much. And
yeah,
I'm
it's
so,
so funny because when you see a snake, you don't think some of us are like, oh, snakes, right?
oh, she's
But they're
gorgeous.
so lovable. Yeah.
I would get her right now and show her to you, but she's in shed right now, so I can't quite touch her. And she actually travels with me everywhere. She's got her own backpack. I know, I fuss. If we didn't, there's something wrong. There's
Yeah.
something. So I get it.
Yeah. And so I think the point that you made about self-forgiveness is so important. And so the being able to write a letter to yourself, I think is so fundamental too, because there's so many things we carry that we don't realize. I think And the other thing too that I was thinking about was I didn't realize this. It was my cousin that actually helped me see that I was carrying so much resentment towards the history of our family. Because there was so much intergenerational trauma,
And yes, lineage
because
clearing.
there was so much intergenerational trauma that was passed
Yeah.
down, I feel like I was like, oh, come on. I inherited all of these things and I was already like going to work out some things. It's like, why didn't you sort it out? And so nobody's done the work of healing themselves. They just kept passing it along. And so now I feel like, oh, this is the work. And so I wasn't acknowledging the strength, the resiliency.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And so
this
for,
letter
yeah.
you can do for your lineage, which will allow you to release all that stuff to see. So I did a ceremony once called the Munaiki rites, and I used to lead ceremony, and I'm getting back into that. And it's South American, and the South Americans have given me so much. And so there was this gentleman, and he was Jewish. And when I went to do this ceremony for him, one of them was lineage clearing. It was a series of 9 ceremonies, and one of them is about lineage clearing. And I could see his family, his people, and the generations, ancient from ancient, and he carried all of it. And it just, I could feel it. And at the end of the ceremony, he said to me, he goes, I don't feel anything. I'm like, okay, that's cool. No problem.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah.
3 days later, I get a phone call from his wife, who was a very good friend of mine. She goes, what did you do to him? And I said, what? And she goes, I think he's dying. And I said, what? And she goes, his face, he's sick. He's throwing up. His eyes are watering. And I'm peeing myself laughing. I'm like, he's feeling it now, isn't he? And
Yeah, yeah.
he got through that. But after, again, his world opened up. He became lighter. And funny enough, he's an animal chiropractor. He works with humans and animals. And his work with animals went more deeply. It was just, it's an amazing thing when we carry all of that to release it and what happens, right? We may not realize it, but we're so powerful in what we choose to carry and what we choose to release. And that letter you can do as a lineage clearing. And the ancestor candle, right? You write ancestors, you can call in all of your lineage from all of time, past, present, and future. You can do this even from past lives. I call in my lineage. I clear you all. Every time you do a healing, kid you not, every time you do a healing, every time you do a ceremony, you are clearing something in your lineage, 7 generations back, seven generations forward. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
When I do ceremony, I know it affects my child. I know it affects my partner. I know it affects my animals because this is my tribe.
oh, I'm excited to do. I had actually written letters just, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. And I'm gonna add the Ho'oponopono part of it, and then because I couldn't make a fire because I'm surrounded by snow, and we have a fire pit outside, and I'm like, okay, now I gotta find some. That's why I had to ask.
Yeah,
And so,
actually, it's a fantastic question too, because a lot of people do live in apartments, right? They do live in places where they can't have access to that. So tinfoil, and usually what I do is like tinfoil one way and tinfoil the other. And
and it
then
doesn't wreck the sink.
no, because it's tinfoil, because it's just a piece of paper. Like you're talking about a little piece of paper, you cut it up and you just burn it little by little. It's not gonna burn this.
Okay, yeah,
Promise. Cross.
wonderful. So a couple last questions. I'm asking everyone this season, what is your definition of self-love?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. For me, it's contentment, peace, and the feeling of safety. And it's funny you're asking that because I have only realized that. I did a massive ceremony for myself over the New Year's, and the vision, the new vision I have of myself is one where I feel safe and I feel this contentment. So for me, self-love is that feeling of safe. Yeah.
And last question is, where can people work with you? Where can they find you? Share anything that you want to share.
Oh, yeah, please. My website is raisingenergy.com. My Instagram is the best place to see a lot of my work. So that's instagram.com/raisingenergy. Pretty much anywhere you go, if you plug in Raising Energy, I'm going to come up, or Angel Morgan, YouTube as well. So yeah, Raising Energy is a great place to find me. If you want to book a reading with me, whether it's animals or humans, you can go to raisingenergy.com or Angel Morgan Pet Psychic. And I have a blog. And my blog is mypsychiclifestyle.com. So you can access all of that through my Instagram. But if you do want a reading, definitely go to my website because my assistant deals with all the Instagram DMs that we get. So the fastest way to get me is through email.
Thank you, Angel. This was an amazing conversation. I just felt so good. And it's so funny. You were interesting. The gifts of South Americans. I'm from Peru originally.
No,
I
you're
came.
not. I didn't know that.
Yes. Yes, I am. I immigrated to Canada with my parents. I was born in Peru. I haven't been back, but my goal is to go back.
No wonder I love you.
I keep seeing messages of Peru. I'm just like, okay,
No
got it.
wonder I love you so much.
Me too.
Oh my God, I love you. I think you're awesome. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same. I just love this conversation.
Yeah, and thank you for being such a fantastic host. Your questions were just phenomenal. So I really appreciate you, and I'm sure your viewers do too. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone that tuned to another episode of Love and Compassion podcast with Giselle.